Welcome to our deep dive into Blink by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, this is a good one. I love this book.
Me too. It's so fascinating. We're going to explore, those split-second decisions, those first impressions.
Yeah, like gut feelings.
Exactly, gut feelings. And Gladwell uses a really interesting mix of stories, research, and psychology.
It's really compelling.
It is super compelling, and he shows just how powerful those snap judgments can be. But, sometimes they can be a little dangerous.
Yeah, perilous for sure.
Yeah, perilous.
It really challenges like how we think about making good decisions,
Right.
We often think more time deliberating is better.
Yeah.
But Gladwell's saying sometimes like those initial reactions,
They can be spot on.
they can be surprisingly accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And he starts off with this great story
Oh, yeah.
about a statue, Getty Koros.
Yes.
And it was purchased by the Getty Museum for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Millions. And they did all the due diligence, like they brought in geologists.
Well, the experts.
They did extensive testing, right? Authentication. And it was like, this is an ancient Greek masterpiece.
And money.
Huge money, right? But even with all this evidence, all this scientific proof,
Oh, here we go.
some art experts were like, something's not right.
Yeah. They couldn't put their finger on it.
Yeah.
But, they just didn't believe it was real.
They had this like intuitive repulsion to it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
One expert even said it looked fresh, which for a 2,000-year-old statue,
Is kind of strange.
it's a strange reaction. And so this whole story leads Gladwell into this idea
Okay.
of thin slicing. And that's our ability to make a judgment call
Yeah.
on a tiny sliver of experience.
Right.
Like, think about it. You walk into a room and you just get a sense, the atmosphere. Or you meet someone new.
Instantly.
And boom, immediate impression.
Oh, yeah. Or you hear, like, the first couple notes of a song
You know if you're going to love it or hate it.
instantly. And we do this all the time. We thin slice constantly.
All the time, right. And what's so crazy is it's not just random,
Yo.
Like, it's not just, I have a feeling. Gladwell gives this example of John Gottman,
Oh, yeah.
a researcher who can predict
Incredible.
with over 90% accuracy
It's amazing.
whether a couple will stay married.
Just by watching them for 15 minutes.
Just 15 minutes. He's not psychic, though, right?
No.
But he's trained himself to notice these tiny little cues.
Yeah. Like facial expressions, tone of voice.
Body language, like really subtle stuff.
It's amazing what those small slices of behavior tell us, about a relationship.
Right. Makes you wonder what we're all unconsciously picking up on, right?
Absolutely. In our own relationships.
Yeah, for sure. And thin slicing.
It goes beyond personal stuff, too.
It's not just people.
Right, exactly.
Gladwell also talks about this psychologist, Samuel Gosling, who studied, like how our personalities are reflected in our stuff.
Like our belongings, right?
Yes, our belongings.
And that dorm room study he did is just amazing.
No, right? He had people, observers, assess these students, right?
Yeah.
Just by looking at their dorm room.
Just by looking at their stuff.
And they were really accurate.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's wild. They could tell, how conscientious a person was or how open-minded.
Just by their stuff.
Just by looking around.
Crazy.
So our environments.
They really do reveal a lot about who we are.
Right.
Yeah. Like, think about your workspace.
Your car, your social media.
Oh, yeah. All sending out signals.
It's all giving off signals.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. And as fascinating as all this is, Gladwell's like, hold on, there are some downsides.
Of course, there are always downsides.
Right.
You can't just rely on snap judgments all the time.
Exactly.
There's a reason we have brains, right?
Exactly. And he introduces this idea of the Warren Harding error, named after a U.S. president
Oh, yeah.
who was elected, largely because he was very handsome.
Like strikingly handsome. People just assumed that meant good leadership.
Right. And it's funny because Harding actually turned out to be
One of the worst.
like one of the most corrupt and incompetent presidents in history.
It's kind of a cautionary tale, isn't it?
Huge cautionary tale.
Shows how we can be swayed by superficial stuff rather than really looking at the facts.
Like the substance.
Yeah. And think about how this bias plays out in our own lives. Like, do we favor certain job candidates just because of how they look?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or do we trust someone more because they're a really confident speaker?
Even if their ideas are
A little shaky.
questionable. Yeah, it's scary, right?
It is. This Warren Harding error, it's something we got to watch out for.
We really do. And to really hammer this home, Gladwell talks about this tool called the implicit association test.
Oh, the IAT.
Yes, IAT.
It's pretty wild.
It is. And it measures our unconscious biases.
The connections we make between certain groups of people and, like, positive or negative stuff.
And it's pretty crazy, like what it reveals.
It's really eye-opening because even people who think they're totally unbiased,
They often have these hidden prejudices.
that can totally affect how they act. It's a reminder that we got to keep challenging those assumptions. Work towards being more fair in our judgments.
Right. Like we have this, hidden layer
Of biases.
working beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And like recognizing that's the first step, right?
Definitely. To being better.
To addressing it.
Yeah.
But Gladwell's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, not at all.
He also explores how we can actually train ourselves
To be better. Yeah.
to make better snap judgments. He tells this really cool story about Paul Van Riper.
Wait, is this the one about that war game? The simulation?
You know it? Millennium Challenge 2002.
Oh, I love that part. Yeah, Van Riper was supposed to play, like, this rogue commander
Yeah.
against the U.S. military in this huge, like, elaborate war game.
It was huge, right? And the U.S. military, they were the blue team. They had all the latest technology, all the algorithms, tons of data.
Yeah, everything.
You would think, like, easy win.
You'd think so. Total domination.
Total domination.
Yeah.
But Van Riper, he's leading the red team.
Yeah.
And he just throws the rule book out the window.
Oh, yeah. He's like, forget the plan.
He embraces intuition.
Yeah.
He tells his team, like, make quick decisions, trust your experience, your gut feelings.
So with your gut.
And guess what?
What?
It worked.
I know.
Within days, his team, they decimated the blue team.
Completely destroyed them.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. They used all these unorthodox tactics like simple communication, and they just adapted so quickly to the changing conditions of the game. It's like sometimes overthinking can really hold you back.
It's true.
In those situations, complex, fast-paced, our instincts, they can be way more effective than all that analyzing.
It's like they say, paralysis by analysis.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just got to trust your gut and go.
That's right.
But how do we know when to trust that gut feeling and when we should be more, thoughtful, deliberate?
Right. When to slow down. Well, Gladwell has some ideas about that too. He talks about this concept, the locked door.
Okay.
It's a metaphor, for how our unconscious mind works. All those mysterious processes. Sometimes we're like wrestling with a problem and the solution feels so far away.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom.
It hits you.
It pops into your head. It's like that door in your mind swings open.
Like, have you ever had that where you're trying to remember a name
All the time.
or song
Yes.
and you just can't get it? And then, like, hours later,
Out of nowhere.
when you're not even thinking about it,
It's there.
it just comes to you.
It's wild how our minds work.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much is happening beneath the surface,
Yeah.
of our conscious awareness, our unconscious minds. They're always processing, making connections, influencing us, how we think, how we act.
Totally. And sometimes those unconscious processes, they can lead to these brilliant insights, these like creative breakthroughs.
Amazing.
But of course, there's always a flip side.
Yeah, there's always a but.
Our unconscious biases, they can definitely mess with our snap judgments too.
Right. It's like we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are,
Yeah,
right?
that's that filter,
Our experiences, beliefs, prejudices, they shape how we see everything.
And we don't even realize it's happening half the time.
Yeah.
Gladwell talks about some research on this. It's kind of disturbing, honestly. The work of this neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio. He was studying patients with damage to a specific part of their brain,
Oh, wow.
the part that processes emotions.
Oh, interesting.
And what he found was these patients, they were totally intelligent, but they struggled to make even like the simplest decisions.
Like they were missing that gut feeling.
Yeah, like that intuitive sense of what feels right, what feels wrong. Their locked door, it was basically jammed shut.
It's like they couldn't access it.
Exactly. And his research, it shows us how important emotions really are to decision making, even when we think we're being super rational. Emotions are there, they're in the background, they're influencing us.
So it's not about ignoring our emotions or trying to be like robots, right?
No way. It's about understanding that they play a part in how we think.
Yeah.
And how we make choices.
Yeah. And being aware of that influence
Yeah.
can help us make, smarter decisions.
For sure. It's like that check in with yourself. Okay, is this decision based on solid reasoning, or am I letting my emotions run the show?
Think with your head, feel with your heart, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, another fascinating example Gladwell uses is the story of Ted Williams, the baseball player, legendary.
Oh, yeah, I know him.
He was known for his hitting, incredible ability. But when people asked him to explain his technique, break it down, what he said didn't match up with what researchers saw when they analyzed his swing, like in slow motion. Yeah, it's like he couldn't fully explain it. That complex, intuitive process that was happening. He was operating on this level that his conscious mind couldn't even grasp.
That's so interesting. I think we all have those moments where we know something instinctively, but we can't explain why.
Right. It's like, I just know. It speaks to that power of experience and intuition. Think about things you do without even thinking. Driving a car, playing an instrument, even having a conversation. You're not consciously going through every step. You're relying on years of practice, ingrained patterns of behavior.
Like muscle memory almost.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes when you overthink those actions, we actually get worse.
It's true. Like when you think too much about your golf swing and then you shank it.
Exactly. Gladwell suggests that for some skills, some activities, thinking without thinking is actually the best way to go.
Wow. So how do we apply that to our own lives? I mean, not all of us are going to be, star athletes or military strategists.
Well, I think it goes back to that idea of structured spontaneity that Van Riper used in that war game. It's about setting up an environment where we can tap into our intuition, make those quick decisions without getting stuck in overanalyzing everything.
So it's not about being impulsive or reckless.
No, not at all.
It's about being prepared, having a clear understanding of your goals, and trusting your gut within that framework.
Exactly. You need that foundation. And Gladwell brings this idea to life with a story about Cook County Hospital in Chicago, their emergency room, notoriously chaotic.
I can imagine.
And this doctor, Brendan Riley, comes in, wants to improve things, make it more efficient, more accurate.
I bet he brought in a bunch of fancy technology.
You'd think, right?
Tons of new rules.
Nope, he did the opposite. He simplified things. He realized the doctors, they were being bombarded with information, and it was leading to mistakes. So he created these clear, concise guidelines for evaluating patients with chest pain, focused on a few key factors, the most reliable predictors of a heart attack.
So streamlined, targeted.
Exactly, and it worked. Improved the accuracy of diagnoses. Patients got faster, better treatment.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like sometimes less is more.
It really is. By reducing that cognitive overload, focusing on the essentials, we can make better decisions faster.
So a key takeaway from Blink is finding that balance between overthinking and impulsivity.
Totally. It's about understanding that power of our unconscious mind, its strengths, its weaknesses, learning to trust our gut, but also questioning our assumptions.
Right, being aware.
Recognizing that sometimes the best decisions, the best insights, they happen in a flash.
Blink, just like that.
Exactly. Blink encourages us to pay attention to those moments. Be more mindful of those subtle cues, the patterns that shape our experiences.
It's reminding us that the world is so complex. We might not even be aware of everything that's going on. And our unconscious mind, it's always trying to make sense of it all. But Blink isn't just about decision-making, right? It also explores how thin slicing affects, like, our perceptions, our judgments, in all sorts of contexts, like marketing or consumer behavior. Yeah, like that Pepsi challenge, remember?
Oh, yeah, the taste tests.
Where people always chose Pepsi over Coke in those blind taste tests. Well, Gladwell, he kind of digs into that, right?
Yeah, he does.
And it reveals, like, how we can be totally manipulated, like, tricked.
Totally.
Even when we think we're making a totally, like, objective choice.
Right, based on our senses, like taste.
Yeah, like, this tastes better, so I choose this.
But
it's so much more than that.
It's so much more. And think about what happened when Coke, they actually tried to change their formula, right?
Yeah, new Coke.
To make it taste more like Pepsi.
Huge disaster.
Total flop.
Yeah.
Because people didn't just want, like, a sweeter drink. They wanted Coke with all the memories, the branding, like all that stuff that comes with it.
Like that red can, the logo, that script.
Oh, yeah, all those associations.
It's all part of the experience.
It totally is.
And Gladwell calls this sensation transference, right? It's like, it's stuff beyond the actual product.
Like the packaging, the marketing.
It affects how we see it. Like, how many times have you bought something just because the packaging was cool?
Oh, all the time. Especially at the grocery store, right? Like, that fancy label.
Yeah, even though, it's probably the same stuff inside.
Probably. But it just looks better. It makes you feel better about buying it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this, like, brings us back to that context thing. when we're thin slicing.
It's not enough to just trust your gut all the time.
Mhm.
You have to think about what else is going on, what else might be affecting you.
Yeah, what's influencing those snap judgments, right?
Right. Like, are you tired? Are
Yeah.
you hungry? Are you in a good mood? All that stuff matters.
It totally does.
Yeah.
And Gladwell gives a really interesting example, right?
Yeah, what's that?
With the Aaron chair. You know those chairs you see everywhere now?
Oh, yeah, the ergonomic ones.
The ergonomic ones, yeah. When they first came out, people hated them.
Really?
Yeah, they thought they were so ugly.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable, weird looking.
I mean, I can kind of see that. They're kind of like futuristic looking.
Yeah, right.
Not exactly cozy.
I remember seeing them and thinking, this is like a spaceship chair.
Yeah, exactly. But the designers, they really believed in it. They knew they had something special. They stuck to their guns. And you know what?
What happened?
The Aaron chair. It's like a huge success now. You see them everywhere.
It's a classic.
It shows that sometimes our first impressions, they can be totally off, especially with things that are like new or different.
It makes you wonder how many other great ideas have been tossed aside. Just because they didn't, like, fit into our little boxes, you know, our expectations.
Yeah, it's like we're so quick to judge based on what we're used to.
Right, right. So after all these stories, all these ideas, like, what's the big takeaway here? What does Gladwell want us to, like, really remember?
I think it boils down to this. Our unconscious mind, it's powerful. It can make these amazing snap judgments, but it can also hold these biases, these prejudices that we might not even be aware of. Blink is really about understanding that, recognizing both sides of the coin, the good and the bad.
The strengths and the weaknesses. It's about becoming more self-aware, paying attention to what's happening in our minds, not just what we're consciously thinking, but all that stuff bubbling under the surface.
Exactly. Learning to trust our gut,
Mhm.
but also knowing when to question it, knowing when to dig a little deeper.
And realizing that some of the biggest, most important moments, the decisions, the insights, they could happen in a flash.
Yeah, just like that.
So pay attention, be present, be mindful.
That's the key.
This has been such a cool deep dive.
It really has.
It's made me think about how I make decisions, how I see things, how I judge things.
Yeah, it's a book that stays with you.
And for everyone listening, if you haven't read Blink yet, do it. It's so worth it.
You'll learn a lot about yourself.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.